With any great innovation, there's always the moment before, when you're on the verge of that big idea, and then it happens, and everything falls into place. For over 160 years, Smith & Nephew has transformed the knee industry with continued innovation, supporting healthcare professionals to enable better outcomes for patients around the globe. The Genesis II Total Knee, Smith & Nephew's flagship knee system for over 20 years, laid the foundation for Smith & Nephew's knee legacy. Genesis II was launched at the annual Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons meeting in Atlanta, Georgia in February 1996.
There was a buzz at Academy, and we had launched probably our biggest launch ever, and we had all the materials there. We're all pushing forward on the same page. It was impressive.
We had dreams of how big it would be. So no, I don't think we really knew that it would take off like it did or be as successful as it was.
Back then we were a trauma company. That's was our big deal. Over half our sales were trauma. Did a lot of hips, not many knees, and this really launched the whole knee business for us.
You know, Genesis 2 is something that you really don't know how big it is when you're in the middle of it and working on it, and then when you launch it and you see people gravitate toward that and the type of design features that tend to take the market by storm.
We were thought as a very innovative company, very strong in engineering. And we were out training, moving, shaking, having courses, having training sessions all over the country, all over the world, really.
People really put their heart and soul into it for many years, and late nights and weekends to make it a success. So, that philosophy is still born into all the engineering and marketing staff and the knee team, and we try to continue that forward legion and journey today.
The product we ended up selling, of course, was the Adam and Eve campaign, Genesis 2. I mean, why not make the product look divine?
It was the Garden of Eden campaign. It was a beautiful picture of a garden and a beautiful woman there, and I don't think she had a knee problem, but it got people's attention.
This is a Genesis 2 t-shirt. This is an original. It's 20 years old. And my wife tried to throw it out a couple of times, but I wouldn't allow her to do it. I take such pride in it.
Since the 1970s, total knee arthroplasty was experiencing an evolution, but many clinical problems remained. The Genesis Total Knee System in 1988 was a significant step in the evolution of contemporary total knee designs. With its asymmetric femoral and tibial components and unique patella tracking design, Genesis enabled Smith & Nephew to take the next technological leap in total knee design, the Genesis II Total Knee System.
Genesis 2 is ahead of its time in lots of ways, which is, we didn't even realize at the time how advanced it was. It's only 20 years later that you see that other people come up with things that they say are new, which literally back in 1996 and 97 we were doing Genesis 2. Things like anatomically shaped tibias, polished tibial base plates, high flexion geometry for the posterior condyles on the femur. These were really revolutionary back then and are still what we consider modern state-of-the-art technology.
In terms of the sizing of the implants, I think they were way ahead of their time. This was based on hundreds and hundreds of radiographs, cadavers, CT scans, trying to get the sizing right. And if you look at when the gender knee came out, without making any changes, the Genesis 2 was a gender knee.
They were looking at the patella. They were looking at an area that still to this day is a cause of anterior knee pain after knee replacements. And their design technology and their design approach was to go after that, go after what hurts, go after the problems.
The femur was designed to be a high flex femoral component by the radius of the posterior condyles, but they were designed to minimize bone loss. Many subsequent designs by other companies actually sacrifice bone. The Genesis 2 tried not to do that.
They were very early to get instruments that could be used with minimal or smaller incision surgery, distal cup first, anterior cup first, and then the evolution to much better bearing surfaces such as oxinium and highly cross-linked polyethylene, which became the very last.
The use of titanium as the metal for the base plate, I think, is very important. The titanium alloy has a much better equivalence to the flexibility of the bone compared with cobalt chrome, and I think is less liable to loosening than cobalt chrome implants that we've used in this area.
But also a lot of things that have now become really the industry standard. It had a very robust locking mechanism for the polyethylene, and the polyethylene itself was sterilized by ethylene oxide, which at the time was not really the standard of the time. So really a number of changes were made with the design of that component that really have stood the test of time essentially.
Over the past 20 years, Genesis 2 knees have been sold in more than 45 countries, impacting almost 1.5 million patients worldwide.
Genesis 2 has been a success worldwide. It's used in every continent. In Asia, it's the #1 knee still used in China. It is either first or second in Australia and New Zealand. It's extremely common in North America.
Smith & Nephew has also been there for those in need, those without access to orthopedic care. For over 10 years, Genesis 2 knees have been donated for life-changing medical missions.
Smith & Nephew has been an extremely generous company in terms of third world or developing world projects to offer hip and knee replacements to poor patients who otherwise would have no access to such surgery. Dr. Rohrbeck and I helped develop Operation Walk Canada, and we elected to concentrate or focus our activities in Antigua, Guatemala, and Cuenca, Ecuador. We have now conducted 18 medical missions. Smith & Nephew has supplied all our implants, well over 1,000 patients, free of charge. Our knee replacement to this day remains to be Genesis 2. We've had tremendous success.
Genesis 2 laid the foundation for Smith & Nephew knees to remain relevant and flexible through an ever-changing industry and trends. Genesis 2 continues to maintain excellent clinical results.
Genesis 2 has great survivorship, which means the durability of the implant is good. The survivorship is 95% plus at 10 or 12 years. And these have been done largely by non-designer surgeons, so they're considered objective. A recent meta-analysis, which means it's a synopsis of all the long-term published studies, showed greater than 95 or 98% survivorship at 12 years, which is remarkable.
As a designer surgeon at our institution, we've been able to follow the Genesis 2 for 15 years. We've recently looked up our results, preparing the manuscript for publication. It's just been submitted, and we have a 98% clinical result at 15 years, which is really unbelievable this day and age with a knee replacement that was designed that long ago.
For the last 12 years, we've had the National Joint Registry, and I have over 1,000 knee replacements of Genesis 2 variety in that registry, and the results are simply outstanding.
We've actually followed over 5,000 of these in various kinds of registries. And in recent years, we even used a level 3 registry, which means that you really emphasize the functional outcomes and how satisfied patients are with the results. And with that kind of data, we've been extremely pleased with the outcomes of the Genesis 2, and it's a workhorse gold standard for total knee replacement, no question about it.
Key elements of the Genesis 2 design have become standard and inherent to all Smith & Nephew knees. Born from Genesis 2 was Legion CR, PS, Revision, and Hinge. Journey PFJ, Uni, XR, CR, and BCS. Genesis 2 laid the groundwork for all Smith & Nephew knee designs, past, present, and future.
Legion incorporated all the things in Genesis 2 that worked. The anatomic design, the low profile design, the patella tracking, the bone conservation, the polished tibial base plate, all that was retained, but they added additional functionality. You could now have tools for anterior referencing, posterior referencing, so implementation was easy. Conversion between a CR and a PS was one step. Adding stems was one step, and it has a complete system all the way from augments to a hinge. It even has polyethylene in 1 millimeter increments, has crosslink polyethylene and oxinium. So then these design features were carried off to the next family of knee products, the Journey, and many of the design features were kept, and the Journey added kinematic functionality. Smith & Nephew has sequentially answered the different issues that we were facing as surgeons as we learned to do this procedure from the 80s until the present.
I see Smith & Nephew not necessarily inventing things just to invent new things, but addressing the needs of the community, as they always have.
You know, the fact that it's been implanted over 20 years and 1.4 million people, that's 1.4 million people whose lives we have really touched, and we've helped them regain their lives. And that is the reason we do what we do. And for Genesis 2 to be that impactful in so many people's lives is wonderful.
So what will the next 20 years bring for Smith & Nephew? What technological advances will spark new ideas, enabling better outcomes for patients and healthcare systems? As Sir Isaac Newton said, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." Without the foundation of Genesis 2 and the legacy it leaves, Smith & Nephew would not be where we are today, which is always looking to the future and how we can continue to be at the forefront of knee replacement.